37-year-old pizza maker Bonnie Judd is suing neighbor, 42-year-old cocktail waitress Julie Tellez. Bonnie claims Julie's son, 15-year-old Jared, threw a golf ball, hitting her in the breast.
Order. All rise.
The mother answered. She was very defensive on the phone, wasn't sympathetic at all for her son's actions. Made it sound like it was my fault for going in my backyard. I was standing in the wrong place.
What did she say?
She just said that I shouldn't have been standing back there. It was a ping pong ball that hit me, that it bounced off the fence and then hit me, and it didn't. It came directly over the fence. I have a picture of where I was standing at when the ball came over. I was in severe pain for about a month due to this. I couldn't lay on my left side. I couldn't raise my arm up to hardly wash my hair. My boob felt like it was going to fall off for about a month. And she thought it was a joke. It was no big deal. I have pictures of the bruise.
Can I see it for her, please?
They're private. I don't want everybody to see them in America.
No. There's no question from a review of these photographs that your breast was severely bruised, all black and blue. There's no question that it was caused by a golf ball. There's no question it was caused by a golf ball that your son threw. Now, Ms. Tellez, I'd like you to tell me why you believe you, as the parent, are not responsible for her damages.
I never said I was not responsible. The afternoon that it happened, it was like around 2:30 or 2:45. The ball hit the fence before it went into her yard, which she told us.
Just a second. Let's say it hit the fence first.
Okay. So it ricocheted over.
Is what you're telling me that you don't feel as if he's responsible? Because you say that in your answer. You feel as if once the ball, according to you, hit the fence, then wherever it went after that was an act of God rather than an action of your son's. That's what you say in your answer. Is that what you believe?
To some degree, but could I finish first?
No, I just want to know if you believe that.
I believe once it hit the fence, Jared was not in control of it anymore. I mean, he didn't throw the ball at her trying to hit her.
There's no question about that. There's no question in my mind that Jared did not intend to cause the plaintiff injury. But he did.
Okay, I just believed that there were other children involved and that it should be split the same as if you were in a yard playing baseball and broke a window, that we weren't the only ones involved.
Just a second. But he was the one who threw the golf ball.
True. I could say the other kid didn't catch it. But
Your Honor. Sorry.
Go ahead.
If you had seen the way that they were throwing this golf ball, they were not playing the way the game was intended. They were wailing this thing clear over the house.
Listen to me. The only thing I had to know is that a golf ball was used in those scoops rather than a wiffle ball, which could have caused no injury, and that was the way the game was intended. Your son modified the game. Now, he may have modified the game with other equally stupid teenagers, but he was the one who took that golf ball, and as a direct result of his actions, she was injured. The fence was not responsible. The other boys were not responsible because they did not throw the ball. It was the one that he threw. And the fact that she could have submitted this to her homeowner's insurance, which is the part of the menu of your excuses, is outrageous and stupid. You are responsible. Your son is responsible. She has to be compensated for the kind of injury she sustained. That's not the fence. The fence is not going to compensate her. You understand that?
Yeah. Yes.
Now, Jared, there isn't any question in my mind that you did not intend to hurt this lady. I don't believe you intended to hurt her. You're just acting like a fool.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bonnie Judd says 15-year-old Jared Frisbee threw a golf ball, hitting her in the breast. Jared says it wasn't on purpose.
Miss Judd's breast was severely blackened as a result of being hit in the breast with a golf ball, your golf ball. And I'm absolutely positive that Ms. Judd worries herself that as a result of being hit in the breast with a golf ball, causing this kind of injury, that maybe someday, maybe 6 months from now or a year from now, she's going to develop a lump on her breast. You're responsible for that. Your stupidity is responsible for that. Your modification of this game, because you didn't want to get a wiffle ball. Anything else you want to tell me?
We did talk to the defendant, and we asked her to come over and look at the pictures, trying to tell her that there wasn't a little bruise like she was saying. She never acknowledged us, wanted to come over or anything.
Want to take a look at what kind of damage your son did? You step up here, private. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,300. That's all.
Thank you,
Parties
Your
are
Honor.
excused. You may step out.
All I can say is, if Al Gore can abide by the Supreme Court's decision, I'll abide by Judge Judy's.
I hope he realizes this wasn't just an accident. It could have seriously hit me in the eye or could have killed me.
And now the next case.
All parties on Strange versus Moses. Step forward.
26-year-old hairdresser Jody Strange is suing the father of her child, 31-year-old electrical technician Gregory Moses, for an unpaid loan, a security deposit, and child care expenses.
Ms. Strange, the defendant is your former boyfriend. You lived
Yes.
together for a period of time, and you have a child together.
Yes.
According to your complaint, some time ago, he needed some money, and he had very poor credit. You took out a loan for him with the understanding that he would pay you back, or pay the loan. In addition to the loan, there are child care expenses that you claim, because he has not paid anything towards the support of this child since you separated. And in addition to that, you claim that his brother moved into the house after you left. The two of them destroyed the place, at least to the extent that it ate up the security deposit that you had put down. Those are the things you're suing for.
Yes.
All right, let's start with the major one, and that is the loan. Tell me when and under what circumstances you took out this loan.
We moved in together the beginning of February under the assumption that things would be 50-50. March came around and
Of this year?
2000. March came around, he could not afford the rent, so I paid the rent, and we tried together to figure out where we could come up with some money. He suggested that we take a loan out on the car. We went to my bank, and they told him that he could not take out a loan because he had bad credit. So I decided to sign on a loan. In order to do that, we both had to put our names on the title. So we went down and put our names on the title. We came back
The title of the car
the
that you were
title
using
of the
as
car.
collateral.
So we went back to the bank, and they went ahead and gave us the loan. He gave me the $400 that he owed me for the rent.
How much was the loan?
The loan was $3,000.
Okay.
I was under the assumption that he was going to give me more than $400 of the money, and that he was going to help pay our bills with.
Assumptions are not contracts. He gave you $400. And what did he do with the other $2,600?
He put it in his checking account.
In his?
Yes.
Okay. And then what happened?
And then April came around and a payment was due. And I asked him to give me the payment. He had went through that money so fast that he didn't have the money to pay me for the car payment.
Were you there when he put the money in his checking account?
No, I wasn't there present, no.
How do you know he put it in his checking account?
I'm going on what he told me.
You have your checking account here, sir?
I got a receipt where I deposited $800.
Well, you deposited $800.
Uh-huh.
On what date?
Let me get the receipt.
Don't you have bank statements that you get?
Yeah, but I didn't get it from the bank.
Why not?
I had these receipts from the...
They mail it to you. Mr. Moses, you don't have to go to the bank. They mail you a statement every month.
Well, that was a long time ago, though.
No, it was only in April.
Yeah, I threw it away when we was moving. Well, I
Just a
had
sec.
the
Let me
receipt.
see the envelope that you just took out, sir.
Oh,
The whole thing.
the whole thing?
Yeah, the whole thing. You and the defendant have a long relationship dating back about 5 years. You have a 2-year-old child together. It is your claim that in 1997 you made a loan to the defendant. Again, in 1999 you made a loan to the defendant. Now that you are no longer a couple, you want those loans paid back. He is counterclaiming. He says you vandalized his car, and years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, you were using his car and got parking tickets. He wants you to pay those 4-year-old parking tickets, right?
That's correct.
Have you nothing better to do with your time? Tell me about this first loan in 1997.
In 1997, Mr. Perry and I worked at a company together, and I quit before he was fired, and he was caught stealing money from the company, and they had made an arrangement for him to make payments, and I used to go with him every week to drop off the payments because he was not allowed to set foot on the premises anymore, and after a while he decided to stop making payments, and they demanded the money in full, and he asked me to loan him the money, and I did.
How much did you give him at that time?
$2,150.
Now, what arrangements were made to repay that money?
He was supposed to start making payments to me as soon as he got back to work, like within the next month or so.
Well, did he ever do that?
No, he never made any payments to me. He lost his job soon thereafter, and after that, he was fired from like 4 other positions, 2 for stealing apparel or money as well. And every time it was time for him to make a payment to me, there was always something else that he had to do with his money so that he could not pay me my money back.
So then you had a child with him?
We had a child together.
No, afterwards. After he lost all his jobs, you knew he caught stealing. Just listen to me. After you knew he got caught stealing, according to you, he promised to pay you back this money in a month, and he never did. So he didn't make payments in all of 1997. He didn't make payments in all of 1998. He lost all these jobs. That's why he didn't make payments. So then you decided to start a family together. Does that sound like very good judgment to you?
No, I was young, and I was in love. So no, it's not very good judgment, and I would be the first one to say that.
All right. When was the last time you asked him for this money?
The last time I asked him for the money, it was December of 2000. And we were on the phone talking, and I said, you know, it's entering another year. Do you think you could come up with some of my money? And he said, well, I don't plan on paying you anytime soon, and that the first time he would be able to make me a payment would be 2003 because he planned on giving me a lump sum of money. And that, okay.
Now, after 1997, and he didn't pay you back a penny, then, according to you, you lent him more money.
Yes.
When?
In 1999, he called me from jail. He had been arrested on a traffic violation of some sort. He said he had some of the money with him in jail, that he was going to be able to use some of that for bail money, and that as soon as he got out of jail, we were going to go to the bank. When I got to the jail, I bailed him out. His sister and I drove him to the bank. He made up some story about the police keeping his identification card, and he could not pay me the money back again. So after everything was over, he had it was a fine due for $300, and he refused to pay the fine. And he told me I should just go on and sign my bail money over too, and he would pay me back that at a later date. And I never signed.
So he had a fine.
A fine.
Of the same amount as your bail money, which is $300. So you just signed your bail money.
I didn't sign it over. I refused to sign it over. And after a while, they said if he didn't make payment, that it was going to be forfeit. So it was forfeit anyways. And he just never gave me the money back for that.
When you were arrested in 1999 on this traffic problem that you had, were you arrested in your car?
Yes.
What kind of a car were you arrested in?
It was not my car. It belonged to my sister.
Just a second. Was that my question?
You said what type of car? It was
Yeah, I didn't ask you whose car it was. I
Okay.
said, what type of car is
Make
it?
and model?
Yes.
89 Nissan Sentra, I believe.
The Toyota Camry. It was a Toyota Camry he was arrested in, a blue Toyota Camry.
Oh, yes, I remember it well. Do you currently own a car?
Yes, I do.
What kind of car do you own?
I own a black 1991 Eagle Premier.
How much did you pay for the car?
$2,500.
And what kind of work are you doing now, Mr. Perry?
I'm a market analyst.
You work for a company?
Yes.
How long have you been working for that company?
3 years.
Who has physical custody of your child?
Miss Lockett does.
Are you currently under a support order for your child?
Yes, I am.
Are you up to date in your support payments?
Oh, yes.
Is that correct?
No, he owes money on it still. He contacted me and told me they said they were going to garnish his income tax because he still owes back money on child support.
How much does he owe on his child support?
I don't know how much he owes on it. I don't know.
When did he start to make child support
He
payments?
started to make child support payments when my son was almost a year old, so he owed money from June. I didn't get my first payment until October of '99.
That's not correct, Your Honor. She's being dishonest at this point.
Okay, so there were a couple of months, but since October of 1999, he's been making the support payments.
Oh, it's garnished, so yes, I get it directly.
Oh, it is garnished,
yes,
right,
it
from
is
his
garnished
salary.
because he refused
oh,
to
that's
pay
perfect. All right, Mr. Perry, let's start out with this $2,150.
Okay.
What company were you working for at the time that Miss Lockett indicates that you had some difficulty?
I should say, Your Honor, that Miss Lockett is making up the bulk of her story.
All right, what company was he working for?
Bagel.
Bagel. Where
Yeah.
are they located?
It's in Rochester, New York.
And what was he doing there?
It wasn't as high as a manager, but he was in a position higher than me, so maybe like a key holder or something of that nature.
Okay. Do you remember the name of his immediate superior?
It was Ron, but he's no longer with the company.
That's convenient.
Oh, I'm good at this. Believe me, I'm good at this. Do you recall whether or not they reported this to the police?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Also very convenient. Sorry, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
Do you remember the entire amount that it was alleged he stole?
No, he never told me how much. He never told me how much money they said he stole.
Okay. Now, Mr. Perry.
Yes, Your Honor.
Before I go and try to make heads or tails of this thing, why don't you tell me? You said there wasn't the whole truth about this incident at Bagel, but it was only partial truth.
No.
So tell me your version of what happened in 1997 when you worked for Bagel.
Your Honor, Miss Lockett is manipulating facts that have happened.
No, I'm asking you, just tell me what
There's
happened.
nothing that happened at Bagel. So to tell you, answer your question specifically.
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened at Bagel. She can provide absolutely no documentation because there was never any incidents of me stealing money or doing anything of that nature at Bagel. I resigned from Bagel. She is lying. She cannot prove
Your Honor,
any of
that's not true.
anything that she is saying is totally a lie. As far as that goes, there is partial truth to what she's saying.
So then let me hear the partial truth before you irritate me and I have to go investigate myself.
I was arrested on a traffic violation, and she did bail me out of jail.
I'm not there yet.
Oh, that's the only truth?
I'm talking about 1997, an alleged loan to you of $2,150.
That's all a lie. That's all a lie.
That's not true.
Okay. You have a bank withdrawal for $2,150
I have a
bank
bank.
That time?
Yep, a bank statement that I withdrew.
Can I see it? Did you give that money in check or cash?
I gave it to him in cash. He went with me to the bank, actually. He picked me up from school and drove me to the bank so I can give him all of my money.
Oh, my goodness.
What's the area code in Rochester, New York?
716.
Thank you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Catrice Lockett says Jason Perry owes her for paying back an employer who accused him of stealing. Jason denies the charge and the loan.
Good morning. This is Judge Judy Scheindlin. I have a case before me that involves a former employee of yours. I don't know how long you've been there, but this person was employed back in 1997. Jason Perry, P-E-R-R-Y. Okay, great. I'm taking testimony now with regard to some money that he paid back to Bagel in October of 1997. A payment of $2,150. Is that right? Okay. What was the total amount that was alleged that he took? Do you remember? Right. Okay. You have been an absolute angel. Thanks, Lisa. Bye-bye. You stole $5,000. Your parents paid back the rest. $2,150 was paid by her. Do you? Because that was the last payment. According to somebody who has, in fact, been there for a very long time and knows you, sir. See what happens when you lie? You think I'm stupid?
No, but that's
Good.
not true.
So, it's not true. No, I called somebody and I said, listen, are you familiar with Mr. Perry? Oh, yes, I am. There an incident in 1997 with regarding some money that he paid back to Bagel? Oh, absolutely. Do you recall how much money he paid?
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. Judgment for the plaintiff on her complaint in the amount of $2,435. I'm not even getting into anything else with him, because once somebody lies, they don't get a second chance with me. Your counterclaim's dismissed, sir. That's all.
You may step out.
I can't believe this.
She was lying through her teeth, and I don't know who Judge Judy called. That's ridiculous. But this whole thing has been a farce.
I feel like I got my justice, and I want everyone to watch out for this man because he will suck you dry.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Chase versus Brooks. Step forward.
33-year-old bus driver Tammy Chase is suing her former friends, Susie and Larry Brooks, for car payments. Tammy says the Brooks repossessed the car.
Miss Chase, the defendants were friends of yours.
Yes.
And some time ago, you were talking about buying a new car. According to what I've read in your papers, the defendants suggested that they had a car, and if you wished to take over the payments on the car would be yours when the car was paid for.
Yes.
And you did take over the payments and take possession of the car.
Mm-hmm.
According to you, you made all those payments, and despite that, they came and repossessed the car. You won all the payments that you made the time that the car was in your possession. They say you were late with your payments and sometimes came up short, so they repossessed the car, right?
Right.
When did you take possession of the car?
In May. I made the first payment in April, though.
And what were the monthly payments?
It was $387.68
And how many months did you have the car?
from April till October.
7 payments you made in total. Did you pay by check or cash?
Cash, 1 check, and money orders.
Let me see the checks and the money orders.
It begins here. And it goes on to the other pages.
And how many payments do you claim that you received for the car?
I claim that she made all 7 payments.
Okay, so there's no dispute as to that.
No.
She made all 7 payments.
Right.
If she made all 7 car payments, why did you take back the car?
Because she made the payments, but she made them late.
Yeah.
And she also made them, she didn't pay them all in full. She was short.
But you said she made all the payments she was supposed to make.
She never paid the full amount each month, and she never paid it on time.
How much short do you claim she was?
Well, 1 month I got a check that was a $70 check that bounced.
Which month was that?
This was in August. When I called her and asked her about it, she said to talk to her boyfriend because it wasn't he owed her the money and it wasn't her responsibility.
Did she ever make up that check?
No, her boyfriend did.
I don't know whether her boyfriend did. So you got the full amount for August.
No, I got that. First of all, the payments were late. Our agreement, I have a written agreement stating that if she was late, I would take the car back.
And that was a 5-day grace period.
How much do you claim she paid you in total towards the car in the 7 months she had the car, madam?
Probably.
Not probably. You must have a record.
I don't have a record because I've never given her a receipt because I've never seen her since June. So I couldn't have given her receipts.
Look, Miss Brooks, I'm not asking you about receipts. If somebody is short when they give you money, then you keep a ledger. The ledger says, this is what she's paid me, this is what she owes me. What, are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you. I couldn't do that because, first of all, she never paid me. She paid my husband. She never paid my husband.
He's not allowed to talk. Right?
Okay, okay.
You're doing all the talking.
Can I tell you how it started first so that you can understand where we're at right now? There's a situation that gets to this point.
I don't care about anything other than the car. You can't take back...
That's what I want to tell you about.
Go ahead.
Okay, what had happened was we have a written agreement here stating that if she was late on the car, at any time after the grace period, we would take back possession of the car.
Which I never used the grace period at all.
Excuse me, it's my turn.
Well, then
okay, then in July, she started making late payments. I would call her on the 5th and say, Tammy, if there's going to be a problem with making the car payment, you need to call me and let me know. She would call me the date of the thing and say, I need 5 more days grace period, I don't have all the money. So there was always a problem. So then there was a problem with reckless driving in the car. So we took the car back once. We had the car back in our possession for 1 week, and then we gave it back to her. Then when we gave her back the car, then the problems continued to start. So what we decided to do, I told her, Tammy, instead of making the payments, I said, bring me back the car. It's not working out because every time I would call on the phone, there was a verbal abuse. I'll pay you whenever I want to. It was a big problem.
But you can't take the car back and then not give her back any money.
I told her, when we got the car repoed, I said, I will give you $200, the money that you paid for this month, I will give it back to you in full. It's not working out. It's nothing but problems.
Just a second. So you were willing to give her back the money she paid for the last month and you were going to take back the car. What about some of the other money that she paid towards paying off your car note?
Well, we never asked for a down payment on the car. We've been paying on the car for 3 years.
Yeah. You've been paying on the car for 3 years and she paid on it for 7 months. But you have the car.
Right. We have the car, but it's not necessarily because of the car payment. It was because of what she was doing in the car. We could not be responsible.
Let us assume that you are correct, that she did not live up to her agreement to pay the note on time, and that at least 1 month she gave you a $70 check that bounced. It bounced, did it not?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So that clearly is a late payment.
Correct.
Because it bounced. So that's in violation of your agreement.
Correct.
Fine. You take back the car. What you're suggesting is that when you take back the car, she loses all of her money. Is that what you're suggesting? You have the equity in the car. You have the car. I'm speaking. You're not going to get all this money back. I mean, you have to pay something. You had the use of a car for 7 months. How much do you think you should have to pay for your use of that car? Because you used it for 7 months. You're not going to get all your money back. That means you had use of a car for 7 months for free.
Okay, first of all, I used it for 6 months because I made the first car payment in April. I didn't get it till May.
6 months.
I don't know. I've never thought about it. I figured I should get the money that the payments that I put into it, I should get back.
That means you had free use of a car.
Can I just state one thing? Okay, the car, they did not repossess the car. They did not make payments to the finance company for 3 months.
Doesn't make any difference.
The money I was giving them, though, they weren't paying the finance company to the car.
Doesn't make any difference. You breached the agreement with them. You breached the agreement with them. They were within their rights to take back the car. You want me to read you the agreement?
No, I know what the agreement is about, but the month that the check bounced is one of the months that they didn't even pay the finance company.
It has nothing to do with you.
Can I at least get my stereo out of the car?
Yes, absolutely. They have no problem with that. They have no problem with that. Within 24 hours of the order, you will return the stereo to them. How much did you pay for the stereo, by the way?
$171, the receipt.
Okay, and I'm going to give you $100 per month for the 7 months that you paid for the car. That is what I consider your equity in the car. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $700 plus the stereo. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She did not make the last 4 car payments that I made to her.
I brought our receipts to show the judge. She never asked me for them. Like she said, that was our responsibility, and I have the proof, and she didn't ask for it.
Don't trust it.
Don't help other people out because it backfires.
23-year-old retail salesperson Heather Watt is suing her ex-fiancé, 19-year-old security officer John Sanderson, for depositing bad checks into her account and then withdrawing the money. John is countersuing, claiming Heather stalked him and caused him to lose.
This is case number 481 on the calendar in the matter of Watt versus Sanderson.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Watt, can you tell me how long the defendant was your boyfriend before he asked you for money?
Approximately 3 months or so.
And what did he tell you he needed the money for?
He didn't really say. He needed it for various things. He said one of the things he used money for was to pay his grandmother, who he lives with. And he just said that he needed money.
And what did you say?
I told him that since he had just gotten a checking account, I told him if he wrote me a check, I could deposit it and withdraw it immediately and give him the cash.
You had an ATM card?
Yes.
And did you do that?
I did.
When was the first withdrawal that you made?
The first withdrawal was on November 4th.
You have your bank statement?
Yes, I do.
Can I see it, please?
Sure. I also have the canceled checks.
I'd like to see those two. First one was November 4th, 2000. And how much did you take out then?
The first one was $100, and a little while after, he said he needed more on the same date, so he gave me another check for $100.
Okay. And then I see there's another check here the next day.
Right.
For $300.
Yes, he decided he needed more money for whatever, various things. And he asked me to do it again, and he assured me that his bank would cover it no matter what. So I did him that favor again.
Was he working at the time?
I believe he was.
Do you remember where he was working?
At a grocery store.
Did he ever give you the money back?
No, he didn't. He promised me that he would pay me back after I informed him that the checks came back canceled. But then the relationship started getting bad. He started getting verbally abusive and controlling, and we were heading towards a breakup, and he told me because he was getting aggravated with me, he wasn't giving me my money back ever.
You also say he has a jacket of yours.
Yes, he borrowed it and took it to Maryland to visit his mother and left it there and never gave it back to me. He said he would do everything he could to get it back, and he hasn't.
Go.
As far as the jacket, we traded jackets. I did leave the jacket in Maryland.
What do you mean you traded jackets?
We traded jackets. I had a South Pole jacket, and she liked it. She wanted to wear it, and I said, well, it was in the beginning of the relationship, so I said, well, if you give me your jacket, then we can trade.
Did she give you back the jacket that you were wearing that was hers?
No, she burned it with a cigarette.
Is that right?
Your Honor, I don't smoke.
Where is his jacket?
It's at my house. I told him he would get his jacket back when I get mine back. I had his jacket dry cleaned for him and everything because it was in dirty condition when I got it.
Your Honor, I was smoking a cigarette, and she had hated it when I smoked. So she took the cigarette and tried to put it out on the bureau. But I yelled at her, and she didn't say anything, but she just turned and put it out on the sleeve of the jacket.
Well, why don't you give her back her jacket?
Because she hasn't reimbursed me or returned my jacket. Also, I have attempted to get the jacket back into Massachusetts. My mother is handicapped now. She doesn't have the means to get to a post office to send it out or anything. She's been waiting for the time when my sister goes out there to visit to mail it back.
All right, we'll take care of the jacket. Now let's get to the money.
As far as the checks, I did write her the checks, of course.
Try looking at me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because I want to see you looking at me when you tell me the story.
Okay. I wrote her the checks because she had an enormous debt in credit cards, and she was falling behind, and she asked me if she could borrow some money. So I wrote her the checks eventually because she kept hounding me, and I didn't have any money at the time. She didn't believe that I didn't have any money in the account, and also I have a ATM card. I have it with me. I have an ATM card that has a credit card logo on it, and she was convinced that it would just charge to my account. If I had written the checks and they bounced, it would just charge to my account, and she'd get the money, and we'd just pay it back later.
Your Honor, that's a lie.
Just a minute. So far, I'm not getting the whole story, sir. Come on.
You know, she deposited the checks, and it takes a few days to post to the account, to clear through the bank and everything. She immediately withdrew the money, bought some money orders, sent them out to her credit card companies, and then a few days later, the bank realized that they were bound. There was no money to cover the checks, so they withdrew the money from the account.
Let me put this in shorthand. You say that you wrote out these checks to her knowing that you had no money in your account. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
That's a crime. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Did you know it before I just told you?
Yeah. I just wanted her off my back.
So in order to help her, you wrote her a series of bad checks. That's what you're telling me.
I wrote her the checks because she had been hounding me for almost a week.
Hounding. So you wrote her a series of bad checks to pay her credit card.
Right.
Is that true?
That is not at all true. When we went to the ATM together, he wrote the checks in the car. We drove to the ATM, and I took the money out of the ATM machine, and it passed from my hands to his, and I never saw it again.
Right, because that's the same date as the withdrawals, dates that you wrote the checks, right?
Yeah.
So what I have to do is now choose which story sounds more reasonable. Now, I could do that by doing those the way we used to choose, you know? Or I can just muster all of my judicial skills, all of my common sense experience, and say that your story sounds a little fishy to me. And if it doesn't make sense, it's not true. Now let's get to your counterclaim. Now that I have disposed of the $500 that you owe her. You are countersuing her for thousands of dollars because you say she harassed you at your job. You were working at a grocery store?
Yes, ma'am.
Costing you thousands of dollars in lost wages.
No, it was $1,000 lost wages.
And what was the other $2,000 for?
Things that she had charged on my credit card.
So let's get to the harassment first. So you're saying that she was harassing you at the grocery store you were working while you were dating?
Yes.
So get over it. If you're still dating, evidently you didn't find that too much of a harassment.
No, I was trying to convince her not to come down so often. And not
So after you tried to convince her not to come down too often and she came down, you still went out to dinner, went to the movies, did whatever you wanted to do. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So forget it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Heather Watts says ex-fiancé John Sanderson deposited bad checks into her account and then withdrew the money.
What she charged on your credit cards?
A sweatshirt, a couple of remote control cars. For her nephews for Christmas, she needed to borrow money.
Did you ever charge anything on his credit card?
No, he bought me a sweatshirt, and he bought me a Walkman, and they were both gifts offered by him.
Right here.
Let me see.
One of my receipts, one of my statements.
Do you have
I
other
actually,
statements?
Filed for
do you have other statements?
Other statements? Yes, I do.
Well, other statements that you wanted me to look at. Okay, you have here written actual amount for a Walkman, $102.
Yeah.
And general merchandise, $83.97.
Yes.
She says you gave her this Walkman as a gift.
No. Her
Your
Walkman
Honor,
that she had.
I had a very good Walkman. It was practically in brand new shape. And I gave him that, and he bought me a new Walkman. So the Walkman I gave him was practically brand new. So it was almost like a trade-off, and it was a gift from him.
The Walkman that she had previously,
Yes.
it wasn't working well, and she wanted a new one, and I said, all right, you know, let's go to Radio Shack and get one.
Oh, fine. So you bought her a Walkman. Perfect. And actual amount for radio-controlled car for her nephew,
Yeah.
$83.97. What is that?
I don't know. I know he bought himself a radio-controlled car. He brought it to my job and to my house.
I bought myself one also.
Get out of here.
No.
Mr. Sanderson, Mr. Sanderson, let me tell you something, sir. You're a really good fibber.
But I really did get her that
Really,
car.
really?
Really.
Just like you really, really wrote these bad checks, right?
Yes.
Right. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. Your counterclaim is dismissed. I don't know if you're ever going to get your jacket back. Do you understand?
Yes.
So we're his. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She totally reversed everything, turned everything I said into a lie.
I just think Judge Judy's a great lady, and she did a good job.
And now the next case.
All parties on Green versus Comer. Step forward, please.
24-year-old cocktail waitress Amanda Breen is suing her former friend and roommate, 26-year-old cosmetologist Tennille Comer, for unpaid rent and bills. Amanda says when Tennille began dating her ex-fiancé, she asked her to move.
Briefly, Miss Breen, according to what I've read in your complaint, you and the defendants were friends and roommates. You were engaged when you moved in together or when you were living together. That engagement terminated.
Yes.
Then there came a time that your friend and roommate started to date your former fiancé.
Yes.
That created a certain amount of friction.
Yes.
And you decided ultimately to give her a choice.
Yes.
Either she moved or you were going to move.
That's right.
She moved, you claim, owing you some rent and other assorted bills.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, when did you give her this ultimatum?
It was October of 2000.
And how did you communicate that with her?
There was a letter that I wrote to her. I spent 3 days compiling a letter letting her know how I felt about the situation.
Do you have the copy of that letter?
No, I did not take
Do
a
you
copy
have
of
a
it,
copy?
unfortunately.
May I see it, please?
Sure. On page 4, it's highlighted where she states that if I move out, she cut her losses, I pay nothing.
Oh,
No,
that's her
it says,
face.
Shh.
it says that if I move out.
Just a minute. When did you ultimately move out of the apartment?
Middle of November.
Did you pay November's rent?
No, I did not.
Excuse me, Your Honor, I may shed some light into that.
I didn't ask you a question yet.
Okay.
Amanda told me that if I would move out, I would pay nothing. She also told me that if I would move out, her mom would pay my half of the rent until she found a new roommate. In the letter, she states that if I move out, she cuts her losses, I pay nothing.
No, that's not what it said. She says, I'll cut my losses. So you stayed until mid-November.
She actually
Now-
was there until the 27th of November. Was the last day she moved her stuff out.
Is that right? 27th of November?
No, it was the middle of November, Your Honor.
What?
That's a lie because
Don't say lie.
I was at Amanda's house.
I assume you're her mother.
I am, and I was at Amanda's house the day that Tennille signed off on the lease, and she looked right at me and said, I signed off on this lease, I owe this money, Amanda's not going to get stuck paying it no matter what. I was there to make sure that she didn't take things of Amanda, help Amanda move things into her bedroom and lock it up because Tennille was taking things from her. And she called her father while she was there and said, Daddy, I don't have to move out today.
It doesn't make any difference. She was there past the first of the month.
Exactly.
She's there past the first of the month, and this way, well into the month, it seems to me she has to pay rent. Now, you said something very respectfully you want to contribute, so I'll let you stand up here. You are former fiancé, current boyfriend?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, your name?
My name is Brian Hansen.
So what do you know?
I received a phone call in November from Amanda stating that if I would get Tennille out of the apartment, that the rent would be waived.
No phone call.
And
Never
all
happened.
all bills, everything owed, it would be waived.
So she made this arrangement with you,
Yes.
but she had no such conversation with the defendant.
Yes, she did.
When?
November 10th. No.
On November 10th, she sat in my living room and told me she knew it was her obligation to pay the money.
I don't understand that. Why would she have a discussion with you waiving the rent for November when you were still living there in November and you were planning to move?
Because she wanted me out of the apartment.
You wanted to be out of the apartment, I assume.
No.
She chose to move out.
I did choose.
Now you can sit down because I wasn't addressing you.
I did choose to move out. It was a hostile environment. I don't know.
Right. Nobody wants to live in a hostile environment. And you have to pay rent in November. How much was the whole rent?
The whole rent was $745. There was a late fee that I was charged because her half was not paid, and the total that I had to pay to keep my apartment was $398.
For her half?
For her half.
Okay.
Correct.
Was there ever a discussion, Ms. Comer, that you did in fact owe certain monies for past bills?
Yes.
She outlines a couple of things here. Still owe me $192.49.
That was grocery shopping, stuff for redecorating the apartment, trips to Costco for household items that I had receipts stapled together on the fridge, and she went through them in June and left me this note with how much she owed me.
Let me see.
In her handwriting.
Okay. Because that will make it easier. Otherwise, I would tell you just forget about it.
And that's the only proof I have left of it, was the note she left me in her handwriting.
Okay. Did you pay her any money towards this account after June 13th?
I'm looking for that. No, I paid $170.36 on 5/25.
No, 5/25. I said after 6/13.
No.
Your Honor, may I approach?
No.
I just don't understand why she would write me this letter saying that these bills are wiped away.
Well, I read the letter very briefly, Ms. Comer, that said how hurt she was that as a friend and a roommate, you chose to enter a relationship with her former fiancé within weeks of their breaking up, and she was very, very hurt. And let's quote exactly what she says here. If you give me the money you owe me, I'll move out. I'll cut my losses, pay you nothing, and you get all your expletive deleted out of my apartment ASAP. And if you don't have your stuff out by November 30th, I have plenty of people who will want to come over here and help me get rid of you. I refuse to live with someone I can't trust, and trusting you is a joke. So if you're asking me why she might have said something that you interpret as, I'll forgive all the money that you owe me, she did it because she was clearly angry and hurt. Ms. Breen, on the flip side.
Yes.
Better now than later.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Affairs of the heart are a very, very difficult thing. I'll tell you that I don't believe that these two people decided to hurt you intentionally by entering into a relationship together.
Right.
I don't think that that's how it started. I absolutely understand the nature of your letter, but you have to understand that they're probably not bad people. They just got caught up in a relationship, and somebody had to get hurt. But I don't think the design of it was to hurt you.
No.
You agree?
I agree.
Okay. Does she owe you any other big bills?
The phone bill came up to $173.13 total. Half of that was $86.57. I have the bills here showing.
Show them to her.
I have the bills here showing exactly how much is due. Statement ending November 28th, which she moved out November 30th, so it is still her responsibility.
Take care of that, no
problem.
And, sorry. And in order for the phone to not be disconnected, I eventually did have to pay the entire amount.
Pay attention.
Okay.
Those are for June, July, August, September, October, until November 28th. Is that right? Okay. What else? Did you pay this bill?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. What else?
$108.52 for the PUD. And
what is that?
That's our power, our electricity.
Show it to her, please.
June through November, the total owed was $217, what does it say, 03, and I divided that in half. Half of it owed by her.
Any question about this bill?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. $774.
$774. That's very close to what I came up with as well.
Move on.
Move on.
Good.
Definitely.
Good luck. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $774. That's all.
Parties are
Thank you.
excused. You may step out.
When we sat her down and told her in a public place that Brian and I were going to decide to have a relationship together, she screamed obscenities at me. She threw ice and straws at me.
I have no idea what she's talking about. We did go to a bar and we had a conversation. I couldn't handle seeing them together. It was still fairly recent after the breakup, and I just decided to leave the situation.
Escaped a bullet by almost marrying somebody that is very vindictive and hostile at times.
61-year-old operations manager Donald Baker is suing his neighbors, Mark and Deborah Taggart. Craig says he paid for the vehicle.
Miss Young.
Yes.
The bill for Western Boots is dated 12/14.
That's right, before.
Shh.
Okay.
Oh, I understand before. But unless you can come up with a really fast answer as to why you kept brand new cowboy boots in the car for 2 weeks and a brand new gold necklace that you were going to give him for Christmas in the car, in its box.
Do you want the explanation?
Oh, yeah, I would like the explanation.
I have 2 vehicles. All of those things were in that car after I purchased it. I left them in the car. And actually, I left a lot of Christmas gifts in the car. And when Christmas came, I took the kids' stuff out, my family things out, and I left certain things in there. The car was in the garage. I drove the van around. I didn't really think nobody would take the car or the stuff in the car.
All right.
I mean, I have new stuff in my other van right now.
Well, that's pretty stupid considering the fact that you already knew that anybody can go into a car and take out stuff from the car. I don't believe that there was anything other than the child seat in the car. What about the stethoscope?
Yes, Your Honor, it was.
That was in
And
the car,
some school-
and that
school
you
things.
have,
Yes.
and that you're going to return.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. Common sense suggests that your gold chain that you bought him for Christmas after you had these
I actually
words
was
on the
going
phone,
to return it.
then you have it in your house. And also your new cowboy boots, you bought them on the 14th. What were you
Right.
doing leaving him in the car?
Especially
I just
when I got mine
explained it
December
to you.
7th.
No. They weren't a Christmas present for him. You said
No,
you
they
bought
weren't.
2 pair.
Yes.
One for you, one for him.
Yes.
He's wearing his, and you left yours in the car. Why?
There was no reason to take them out.
There was no reason to take cowboy boots into the house? Right. All right. Miss Young,
Yes.
I've been around the block a little bit.
Okay, that's
Okay.
fine.
So far, you're ahead of the game on your $1,008. Stethoscope you're going to get back. Let's get to the child seat. Who bought the child seat?
I did, Your Honor.
Is that correct?
Yes, he purchased it.
You use that child seat?
No, Your Honor, I don't.
Oh, if you don't use it, then you're going to give it back to her.
Yes, I am.
I've been asking
Oh,
him for
fine.
it.
So you're going to give her back her stethoscope, any medical stuff that she has, any notes, any books, and anything else?
The only thing that was in the car, Your Honor, was the baby's bag, my son's bag, a stethoscope, like she said, and the car seat itself.
Okay,
That's
you're going
it.
to give those things back to her
Can you
within
ask?
24
I'm sorry.
hours. Yes.
Can you ask him who took the car? Because did you take the car?
Just a second. Don't ask him. You said, can I ask him?
Yes,
I don't
please.
care who took the car. He took it back. He acknowledges he took it back. Okay, Mr. Perry, you tell me about the conversation when you brought the car home.
The conversation when I brought the vehicle home, I spent the night at her house that particular night. We woke up that morning, and she was to drop me off at home, which she did. When we got in front of my home, I'm breaking out the paperwork because she already knew what the total amount was. All of a sudden, now it's like, well, you know, it's getting ready to be close to Christmas time, and my money's kind of short. Huh? What do you mean short? Okay, what can you give me right now? Well, I can give you $1,000 right now, and then I can give you
Miss Young,
$400 payments.
Did you hear what I said?
Yeah,
To him? Say the same thing
She
to
said
you.
I can give you $400 payments. I said, okay, well, that's fine, as long as I get it before the bill is due. She said, oh, I can do that. Okay,
Listen to me. I want to see your American Express bill.
sure, right here.
Thank you.
One is the bill itself, and the other is where I made the payment on the bill.
So she agreed to make payments on the bill.
She agreed to
Excuse
make
me?
payments. She never made any payments on it. Every time that I asked about the payments, it's like something come up, something come up. I do have a 17-year-old son with her, okay, which I love very much. I'm trying to deal with her in the situation, okay? I did not start sweating her until after she started constantly asking me about the license plates to the vehicle. I said, Diana, I have the license plates to the car. She said, well, I tell you what, I'm going to report the license plates stolen. I said, what do you mean you're going to report the license plates stolen? She said, you keep the license plates. I'm going to report them stolen because the title was coming to my house in the first place, and I'm not going to give you any more money on the vehicle. I said, how can you do that? She said, because I called down there and had the address changed, because it originally is in my address.
Okay. You took back the car.
I took back the car, yes.
All right, Mr. Perry, this is not a very difficult case. She drove the car for approximately a month. Is that
That's
right?
correct.
Your counterclaim is dismissed for $750 for depreciation on the car. It's nonsense. You know it's nonsense, and I know it's nonsense. Okay. The items that were in the car when you took back the car, because I do find that there was an agreement that she would pay you the additional $800, I believe.
Excuse me.
Put your hand down.
That is not true.
Put your
That's a
hand.
lie.
Hey, look at me. Don't speak. I'm ruling. I listen to you. I listen to you. Now you listen to me. I do believe that there was an agreement to pay off
That is not true.
the additional $800 for the car. You, Miss Young, are absolutely entitled to your $1,008 back. You are absolutely entitled to your medical equipment that was in the car that the defendant is going to return to you. And he has indicated that despite the fact that he purchased the car seat, that also will be returned to you. I do not believe that you left a brand new gold chain or brand new boots for weeks in your car. I think that's a lot of baloney. So, I am entering a judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,008, and I am dismissing your counterclaim for the car's depreciation.
Your Honor, can I say one thing? Her name, by her name still being on the title of the vehicle, is it any way possible that she can sign off on that title by me giving her, refunding her the money?
Oh, yeah. Do you have that?
No, I don't have anything.
All right. Very, very easy. Ms. Young, with the entry of this judgment in the amount of $1,008, do you agree that you will relinquish all title and interest in the car that is currently in the defendant's possession?
I have no problem with that.
So the answer is yes, you will.
Sure, I will, yes.
Yes, you will. Then that will be part of the order, that the plaintiff agrees that upon receipt of $1,008, she will, in fact, sign over title to the defendant. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
You lied. First of all, I hate that it had to go this far. Second of all, he lied.
I think the judge was very fair, and she saw right through her lying.
There was no agreement for this vehicle, and he knows it, and I know it. There was no payment arrangements.
There was a verbal agreement.
There was no agreement at all, and you know it, Craig.
I'm lying, Donnie?
Yeah.
And now the next case.
All parties on Wandick versus Munoz. Step forward, please.
17-year-old Barbara Wandick and her mother Marcela Avitia are suing 58-year-old caregiver Olivia Munoz for the return of a down payment on a car.
Who's Miss Wandick?
That's me.
And who are you?
Her mother.
You can sit down. How old are you, Miss Wandick?
17 years old.
There came a time when you were looking for a car. It was about a year and a half ago?
Approximately August of 1999.
And you were 15 then, is that right?
Correct.
You saw that the defendant had a car. You went and arranged to buy this car from her. You gave her $1,000 deposit. And then there were some arrangements that you were going to pay out the car within the next month or 2 months or whatever. You didn't make the car payments, and you didn't buy the car.
Correct.
And you want your $1,000 back.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
Ms. Munoz.
Yes, ma'am.
When she came to your house and wanted to purchase the car, did you have her sign a contract?
No, ma'am. We didn't have a contract. I just wrote out a receipt, which I have as evidence.
That she gave you $1,000?
Yes, ma'am.
Who did she come to your house with?
She came, Barbara Wanda came to my house with a young man.
A boyfriend?
Yes, a husband. I thought it was a husband.
You thought it was her husband?
Yes.
She was only 15.
That's the first time that I find out her age.
Ms. Munoz, let me tell you what the law is, because this case will be handled very swiftly. The law is that you cannot enter into a valid contract, either written or oral, with a minor. Being a minor is an absolute defense to a contract. Do you understand?
I understand that, Your Honor, but she did not present herself as a minor.
She doesn't have to. She can have gray hair. She can be long in the tooth. It doesn't make any difference. If she's under 18, she cannot enter into a valid contract. And it's up to people like yourself to say to somebody who looks young, because she clearly looks young, I'd like to see your driver's license. And so would I. I would like to see your driver's license so that I can be certain that you are how old you say you are. Do you have a driver's license?
No, I do not.
Do you have any proof of your age?
Well, I did bring my work permit in order to show you.
That I can see.
I believe it has my birth date, yeah. It has my birth date right there.
Have the agreement from Action Rental for rental services, cups, tablecloths, the tent. You did have a tent, didn't you?
Yes, ma'am.
There were actually 2 tents, Your Honor.
So that the entire rental was $336. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. Now, what happened the day of the wedding?
Well, 2 days prior to the wedding, I received a phone call from my brother, and he said that Jessica was upset over the DJ. And I said, I don't know what else to do. You know, you agreed to it last night. We've signed this contract, sent it on. The guy has my credit card number. This is what we agreed to.
Right.
And she was at work. There was no way to contact her.
Okay, so you had an agreement with your brother, so he
And
told you he was upset about it.
Right, and in the background I could hear her screaming and yelling obscenities at me and calling me foul names. I told my brother that I was very upset by this, and we have done nothing but open our home to Jessica. It's my brother's wife, the mother of his child. We've never been anything but nice to her, and to have her say those things about me was heartbreaking. And at the time she was driving one of our vehicles, and I said if that was the attitude that she was going to take with me, then I expected the return of our vehicle, and that I expected an apology. I mean, what she said was just, it was wrong and it was rude, and I expected an apology. And Jessica called me, and she said she was very stressed about, she was having trouble with her pregnancy. We talked about that for about an hour. She apologized for what she had said about me, and everything was fine.
So you got to the wedding? Had the wedding at your house?
Yes.
What happened with the gifts? They got wedding gifts.
The gifts were on the back porch, and her grandmother asked me to take the gifts inside to ensure that the gifts were safe. We put the cards in our office, and we figured they would be safe there and fine until the next day when, you know, they were to come back and open them and help clean up.
So what happened?
Everyone had left for the evening, except some friends of ours were staying. My brother was passed out in one of our spare bedrooms. It's not funny. Jessica was still there, and Patrice was also there with her children. I was out back. Everyone was packing up. It was about midnight. And Jessica wanted to take my brother home for the evening. And she asked me, could I unlock the house? And I said, Jessica, I don't have a key. And she said, and I'll quote, and I hate to use this language, but she said, what do you mean you don't have a key to your own house?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Joseph and Kimberly Andrezel say Kimberly's brother, Keith Fano, and his wife, Jessica, owe the money they loaned the couple for their wedding.
Okay, go ahead.
And at that point, I still had my gown on. And I said, Jessica, where am I going to put it? I don't have a key. Joe has pockets. You need to go talk to Joe. So she found Joe, and at that point, the two of them went in the house.
I'll pick it up from here. Jessica, Patrice, her maid of honor, and myself, we went in the house to find Keith. He was still in the same state that we left him. They kind of half roused him, got him stood up, and walked him out to the car. After they got him to the car, they came back in, and Jessica started asking me where the gift cards were. And, you know, I just told her, I said, they're safe, they're in the back room, we'll take care of it tomorrow. You know, and in my mind, I knew full well that Keith was going to come back and help us take the tent down and pack tables up and chairs and stuff like that. I really didn't want anything to happen to it. There was a lot of money there. We were both concerned about it. I mean, we had obviously had something riding on it. And I said, you know, we'll just take care of it tomorrow.
Right, and she said?
She got very belligerent. I won't quote exactly, but there was a lot of F words flying. She was very belligerent. Patrice was belligerent. And I basically told the two of them, I said, you know what, we need to talk about this tomorrow. We've all been drinking. There's no point in arguing about it now. There's a 4-year-old baby sleeping on the couch over here. Why don't we just discuss this in the morning when we're all in a little bit better state?
At that point, I came into the house because from the backyard, I could hear yelling. I thought they were outside because I could hear them so clearly, and he said, no, they're in the living room.
Okay, so there was a fight.
Yes, I went in to ask them to go outside. I did not want Shania to be awakened. She was sleeping on the couch, and I didn't want her to be scared. So I asked them to go outside, and they refused to leave the living room. Joe told Patrice, you don't belong here, you have nothing to do with the agreement, you need to leave. And I said, you know, if you don't go, I will call the police. And Patrice told me that Jessica would have called the cops, and I quote, if she knew where the phone was. And I said, Patrice, Jessica knows my house just as well as anyone. She certainly knows where the phone is. If she thought she was in danger, she could have called 911. At that point, I went to get the phone, and Patrice reached out for me, and Joe grabbed onto her and lifted her off the ground and somewhat pushed her out the front door.
Bottom line is they did not get the checks that day.
No, ma'am.
Okay, and according to you, you received a telephone call from her grandmother.
Yes.
Her grandmother, the next day.
Yes.
Please give them the gift cards, whatever they owe you, I'll take care of.
Yes. I also brought a copy of an email sent to me that basically states exactly what you said.
Right, okay.
Okay,
and then she didn't pay you.
No, ma'am.
You want them to pay?
Yeah, they paid nothing.
Good. Who's going to speak for your end?
I'll speak on most of the part because a lot of it he wasn't even there for.
Well, he was there for the agreements, Keith. Is that right?
Yes, I was.
You were there for the agreement, so let's get to the agreements. Did you, in fact, sign off on the caterer's contract and choose the menu?
I don't remember signing the contract for the caterer, which is, it's very possible I did. There was a lot going.
You did pick the menu?
Yes.
Fine. Now, at the time when you were doing the menu, did you, in fact, have a conversation with your sister with regard to payment?
It's very possible, Your Honor.
What do you mean it's very possible?
There's been a lot going on since August, since the time of that, with the birth of my son and everything
I'm
else.
not talking about since the birth of your son. I'm talking about at the time that you were planning a wedding. Your sister sounds as if she has tried to be very nice to you.
Yes.
And very nice to your then fiancé.
Yes.
Did you, in fact, discuss with your sister that whatever financial deficits there were with regard to the DJ, the caterer, flowers, the porta potties, the rental for the tents, the rental for the other things, that you would be reimbursing them for those items?
Yes, Your Honor.
You did?
Yes.
Fine. And we don't have to go any further. The question is, why didn't you?
That, I don't really have an answer for that, Your Honor.
Well, your wife seems to have an answer for that. But you had the arrangement.
Yes.
Good. You got a couple of choices, Miss Attitude. And I have a couple of questions for you. Did your father, in fact, at first, indicate to you that he was going to send you some money for the wedding? That requires a yes or a no.
Yes, ma'am.
Did your father give you any money towards the wedding?
He gave me money way before the wedding, and I never told her.
He gave you money way before the wedding for what?
For whatever it was that I needed to purchase.
For the wedding?
Correct.
How much did he give you?
$2,000.
What did you do with it?
I spent it on tuxedo.
On other things. $2,000 isn't a tuxedo.
No, it was a lot of other things. I have receipts for a lot of it. It was for dresses for the bridesmaid or the maid of honor. There was dresses for the little flower girls. There was quite a few things. The alterations to my dress. There was a lot of things that it was paid for with that money.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Yes.
It's interesting that she brings up the bridesmaids' dresses because the day we went to purchase them, her other bridesmaid was not with us. And when I took mine to the counter, Jessica fully expected me to pay for that other dress. And I told her that I had paid for enough that day, and that's where I was drawing the line. That I was not going to pay for a dress for someone that I didn't know. The other things that I paid for, that was for my brother, and I knew that I would get that money back. But for someone that I didn't know, that's where I drew the line.
Did you at any time tell your brother's wife that you were expecting money from your father, and that money would be to cover some of the expenses for the wedding, such as the caterer, the DJ, flowers?
No, Your Honor.
You did not. So all of the financial arrangements were left to your husband.
Can I say something? As far as the entire wedding was concerned, I had no control over anything that happened. This was more Kim's wedding than my wedding.
I read that in your papers, and who cares?
I didn't want it catered, Your Honor.
Who cares? Well, your husband did.
No, he didn't.
What?
He did it to make her happy. Everything that we did for this wedding was to make her happy.
Let me explain something to you. Neither your husband nor you were forced, dragged to their backyard to have this wedding. If you didn't want to spend any money for a wedding, if you didn't want to use their backyard, get on a plane and go to Vegas, go to Wedding Chapels Incorporated and get married. You went to the wedding. Your husband participated with his sister in the selection of a DJ. He signed the contract for the DJ. He selected the menu. He agreed to pay for the incidentals because you knew you had an outside wedding. You have to have tents and chairs and porta potties. How many people were at your wedding?
I don't even know.
The RSVPs were for 80, then plus the people in the wedding. And
so about 90 people?
We had originally planned for about 100, 110 the week before the wedding. Jessica called Kim in a frantic panic and said, we need to increase the number of people that you have for the caterer. We need to increase it from 125 to 150 people.
But the RSVPs were wrong to increase the number, which increased everything else as well.
Looking over all of your receipts, the amount is pretty close to the $3,000 that you are requesting. And $3,000 to make a wedding for 90 people is certainly a bargain. You would agree with that, Keith, wouldn't you?
Yes, ma'am, I would.
Keith, let me talk to you for a minute, because I'm telling you, and I've been around, there is no talking to your wife. Have you spoken to your sister since your wedding?
A few times, Your Honor.
Was your sister there when your son was born?
No, she wasn't. I actually received a phone call the week after my son was born at my employment.
Shh. Is this your only sister?
Yes, it is.
And you're pretty close?
Yes.
Tell me about how come your wife was driving one of your sister's cars.
Our vehicle that we had was a manual transmission. And with her being pregnant, her doctor advised her not to drive a manual transmission vehicle.
So how did it come about that your sister gave her one of her cars to drive?
We were at my sister's and my brother-in-law's residence, and we were talking about it one night, and they said they had a vehicle sitting there, and they said that she could use it.
That was very nice of them.
Yes, it was.
So, Keith, you know what the divorce rate is in this country?
No.
Better than 50%. And if I were a wagering person, my friend, I would say that you're going to fall into that 50%. You're going to have your sister forever. If your wife is forcing you to make a choice between your sister and her, that's really crummy. You would agree with that, wouldn't you?
Yes, I would.
Me too.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
They did nothing but try to give you a special day. Miss Attitude over here, she cops an attitude because she wasn't involved in selecting the caterer. She opened up a big fresh mouth over the telephone. You shouldn't be placed in a position where you have to make a choice between your wife and your sister. Your sister, I'm sure, and your brother-in-law would love to see your baby, hold your baby.
He's here now, Your Honor.
And if your wife is preventing that, you're supposed to be a man. You stand up and say, you don't want to have anything to do with my sister? That's your prerogative. I intend to have a relationship with my sister and her husband because they've been nothing but good to me. And it's Saturday afternoon. I'm taking the boy over to see my sister. And if your wife can't digest that, that's her problem. Because any time a mate unreasonably forces their mate to say it's either me or your family, unreasonably, you got to make a choice. Don't make the wrong one. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I love you.
I love you too. Can this be civil?
20-year-old student Jennifer Sanchez is suing her ex-boyfriend, 21-year-old waiter Jared Butler.
Miss Sanchez, according to your complaint, you and the defendant were in a relationship and for a period of time lived together. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
You claim that the defendant, without your permission, took your car and wrecked it. You had no insurance, according to you. The car was totaled, and you want him to pay you $5,000.
Right.
The defendant says he had your permission, and he has a whole bunch of excuses. One of his excuses is you should have had insurance on the car, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Tell me under what circumstances he had your car.
Well, what had happened was early in the morning, I had to be at work at 7:30, and he had misplaced his car keys. So he decided that he would just take my car to go and pick up his spare key that was at his mother's house. And while I was getting ready for work, he just grabbed my keys and walked out the door. And right before he closed the door, he just yelled that he was going to take my car before I could react or anything.
Well, if you had time to react, he had taken your car before and had driven your car before, is that right?
Right.
You wouldn't have said no.
I would have taken him.
Why?
Because I was nearly ready and I had to be to work and...
But you would have had to have taken him and then come back, right? So there would have been no point in you taking him. Ms. Sanchez, I want you to answer my questions honestly. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
There would have been no point in you saying, just a minute, I'll drive you to your mother's house and then bring you back in order for you to pick up your car, right?
Right.
He had driven your car before. There wouldn't have been a problem.
Right.
So you grabbed her car keys.
No, Your Honor. She gave me permission to use her car keys, Your Honor.
I'll decide whether she gave you permission.
Okay.
You grabbed her car keys, and you got into the car.
Yes.
And what happened?
I headed towards my mother's house to get my spare keys from my vehicle. On the way back, I got in a car accident.
You got into a car accident that was your fault.
It's proclaimed as my fault, yes.
First of all, you have to speak slowly. You have to speak so I can hear you. You got into a car accident that was your fault.
Yes.
How?
It was said that I ran a red light, and I got in a car accident.
No, your voice trails off at the end, sir. I heard ran a red light, and then?
I got in a car accident.
You hit another car?
Yes.
Did you run a red light?
The light was yellow.
You ran a red light. Were you given a citation?
No.
You claim, sir, that your driving license has been suspended.
Restricted.
Or restricted. Why was your driver's license restricted?
Because I was driving a vehicle that was uninsured.
How long had you lived together?
At this time, 1 month.
Now, had you ever had a discussion with her about insurance?
About 9 months before this, and her and I broke up and we got back together. California law assumed she had insurance.
But you never questioned her?
No.
Now, you have insurance on your car.
Yes.
Did you report this accident to your insurance company?
Yes, I did. And they said they wouldn't cover me to drive someone else's vehicle. My insurance only covers me to drive my vehicle.
Really?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that the way it happens here?
Oh, no, I've never had an accident.
It was always my understanding that if you had insurance, that your insurance covers you even if you're driving somebody else's car.
That's what we had thought. And her father and myself, we had called my insurance company, and we've been fighting them. And they said that they wouldn't cover me to drive her vehicle because it was uninsured, and they're not going to pay for it. I was willing to pay the deductible to get it fixed, but they wouldn't cover it.
Could your car have been fixed?
No. It was written off as a total loss by more than one place.
What year car was it?
It was a 96.
What's your insurance carrier's name? Let me see. Is this the name of your broker?
Yes.
Good morning. This is Judge Judy Scheindlin. To whom am I speaking? I'm in the middle of trying a case, and I'd like some information from you. Okay, I have one of your insured before me. His name is Jared Butler. Are you familiar with that person? Okay. My question is this on his policy. Does that policy cover him if he is driving someone else's car? Liability only. It won't cover collision. I see. Well, that's really what I want to know, because that's exactly what happened. Okay. Very good. You've been a tremendous help to me. Thank you. Bye-bye. Can I see the bills for your car, proof of loss?
It's right here with the letter we sent him.
Mr. Butler, I give you 30 seconds or less to explain to me why you should not be responsible for this.
I just feel I shouldn't be responsible for her negligence. She drove her car without insurance. California state law requires her to be insured. She shouldn't allow somebody to use her car or be driving to work every day, driving her nephews, allowing us to drive to Big Bear in a car that's uninsured.
So you believe
I don't think I should be penalized for her negligence.
So you believe that she is the proximate cause of her car being totaled because
Absolutely
she
not.
should have had insurance?
It was my fault that I was in a car accident. It's my responsibility for the accident. It's her responsibility for the insurance.
Right.
So I'm not blaming her for the accident. I'm taking responsibility for the accident.
How are you taking responsibility for the accident?
Well, prior to all this, her father and I had been trying to settle on an agreement, and I told him I would pay the $1,000 deductible for him, and I could work out some payment plan, and he didn't want that. And because he wanted to go to court and see whose fault it was, really.
It's your fault. You ran a red light. Wasn't even as if you were the innocent in this car accident. You were the guilty person in this car accident. What about the car that you hit?
They had sent her father some notice saying that they are $5,700 they want for the car to be fixed.
Yes.
That's what happened as far as that goes.
They actually sent me the notice. They're coming after me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jennifer Sanchez says ex-boyfriend Jared Butler owes her for totaling her car. Jared says he had permission to drive the vehicle.
Now, just for my own information, why didn't you have insurance?
I actually did have insurance, but I wasn't aware of it. My father had let me believe that I had been canceled from their policy because he wanted me to pay the insurance bill, and I couldn't afford it at the time.
Yes. So did you have insurance or not?
Yes, I did, and I didn't find that out until I'd purchased this new car to go and put it on the policy.
So you have insurance? You mean if I didn't ask that question, you weren't going to tell me?
No, I would have said.
When were you going to tell me?
When he was done relaying his story.
So what was your out-of-pocket expense?
My out-of-pocket expense has been nothing so far except for I had to buy the new car, which was $9,000.
Right, but your insurance is going to... You do have insurance.
Right.
What's the deductible on the insurance?
I don't know that.
Well, if you don't know that, Miss Sanchez, how do you expect me to make a judgment? I have to compensate you because clearly this accident was his fault.
Right.
And he should be prepared to cover you for any of your out-of-pocket expense. And if you have a car that has a $500 deductible or a $1,000 deductible, that he pays. You're suing him for $5,000. How am I supposed to know what your deductible is on this insurance that your father carried for you but didn't tell you about? I'm sure he told you about it before you walked into court.
Well, I didn't find that out until I went to get my new car insured under his policy.
Who is this person here with you?
This is my mom.
Do you know?
I do now.
Perfect. Stand up, please. Ms. Sanchez.
Yes.
Would you please tell me what the deductible is on this insurance that your husband wisely carried for his daughter?
I actually don't have that information as well. Jennifer and myself were not aware until she purchased the new vehicle that my husband, in fact, did continue paying her insurance bill for her. Because she's a full-time student, we would never consider allowing her to drive a vehicle without insurance.
Very smart. But how am I supposed to know what kind of judgment to render in her favor? What were her losses?
Well, because of my husband's feeling, I believe, in talking directly to me was that because Jared did, in fact, not have permission to drive the car on that day.
Yes, he did. I'm telling you he did.
Okay, indirectly, I'll agree.
I'm telling you he did.
All righty. Indirectly, I feel, in my opinion, that he did not, because she did not have a chance to respond.
I'm telling you that that didn't happen. Because if he had taken the car without her permission, she gets on the phone, she calls the police and said, somebody just took my car without my permission. He's driven the car before. He drove the car before when she had no knowledge about this other insurance policy. She knew that she didn't have insurance. She let him drive the car. She drove the car herself.
That's true. Jared has driven the car one time before to Big Bear, as he stated.
Just a second.
But never without her.
Trust me, he's driven the car before. Maybe when they went out on a date, he drove. Does that sound right to you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Went out to dinner or to a movie, he
Never
drove.
taking it upon himself to get in the car and take off.
Listen to me. Don't be naive. Don't be naive. I left my keys. I can't find my keys. I'm running off to my mom's to pick up a set of keys. I'll be back in 2 minutes before you have to leave for work. And whether she handed him the keys or he went in her bag and took the keys, that's what happened. So I don't care what your husband's feelings were. Your husband feels as if he should pay for the whole car and not put it through his insurance?
Actually, it's not the entire amount of value of the car. It's what we could get through small claims court. The value of the car exceeds the $5,000.
How much did your insurance company pay you for the car?
We did not report it to the insurance company because she was not aware, nor was I, that she actually was covered. My husband even told me that she did not have insurance.
When were you made aware of it?
When she purchased her new vehicle.
When was that?
Almost 5 months after this accident occurred.
Approximately 4 weeks ago.
Something wrong with this picture over here. Your husband knows that he has insurance for some bizarre reason, which is maybe why he's not here. And any reasonable person would say, I'm going to put in my claim right away. Because how else am I going to get paid for this car?
The reason that I can give you for that is because from the beginning, there was not a problem as far as Jared agreeing to pay for the damages that he had himself incurred on Jennifer's vehicle. That was never a problem, but as months and months went by, he then said that he was only partially responsible. Now he's saying he's not responsible at all.
Oh, he is responsible.
Of course, we know that.
He's
but he doesn't
responsible.
seem
The
to
only
know that.
question is how much. I mean, I can understand your husband saying, listen, if I report this to my insurance company, my premiums are going to go up, and they're going to go up and stay up, which is a problem. Now, that's a reason. That's a reason saying, why should I be penalized when he caused the accident? And by my insurance going up, all because of his accident, I'm not going to report it to my insurance company and let him take care of it. That's a reason that I might buy.
Right, and that's exactly
correct. Well, then why don't you just say that to me instead of this hocus pocus? My husband didn't tell me. My husband didn't tell me. What?
I don't understand it, Judge. I don't understand.
I still didn't get a straight answer from you, Miss Sanchez. Were you supposed to have had insurance on this car?
As far
Look
as
at
I
me.
knew,
Were you supposed to have insured the car yourself? Just answer my question.
Yes.
Yes. Did you tell your father you had insured the car yourself?
no.
When were you supposed to have put insurance on this car yourself?
I was supposed to have done it a while back, but I could
Why
not
didn't
aff-
you?
I couldn't afford to.
Did you tell your father you couldn't afford to?
Yes, he knew I couldn't.
No, don't tell me what you knew. Did you have a discussion with him and say to him, I cannot afford to maintain insurance on this car?
Yes.
When?
It was probably about a year before this accident happened.
Did your father say you have to maintain insurance on the car?
Yes, he did.
So why didn't you?
Because I couldn't afford to.
Then you don't drive. What happens if you have an accident? Happens all the time. You have no insurance to cover your car, and what about the people that you injure?
I would have been responsible.
And how are you going to pay for that if you couldn't even pay for the insurance?
Well, I would have had to get a job.
I thought you have a job.
I had a job, and I lost it.
You don't drive a car without insurance. Mrs. Sanchez.
Yes.
I quite frankly can understand why your husband would not want to cover this part of the damage.
Correct.
Your husband, however, since the car is insured, is probably going to have to cover the people who he hit, unless you want to be out that money too. Do you understand that?
Yeah, I understand the legalities of that, but morally, I think that's a little...
He's going to have to be responsible because he's not going to do it.
We've clearly found that to be the
Right.
case.
But I believe that your daughter is partially responsible for what happened here. I believe that he is more responsible for what happened, but your daughter actually drove a car that she knew was not insured. And she did allow him to drive that car, knowing that that car was not insured. When did you purchase this car?
My father purchased it for me about a year before. I had only had it a year.
You have the purchase price of the car?
I don't.
Let me see all your papers, please.
Waters says matchmaker Terry Gibbons was given specific criteria for the women he wanted to date. Wayne claims he was given the complete opposite.
Now, Ms. Gibbons, tell me about the conversation.
Perhaps Mr. McWaters didn't mean to be rude to me, but he was being very sharp and very, why didn't you give me what I asked for and so forth. He didn't tell me at the time that he wanted somebody absolutely who'd been married. He did say he wanted somebody who'd been in a relationship. The match had been in a relationship. She had lived with somebody for 3 years.
I want to know about the conversation that you
Okay, what
had.
I said to him was, if you're rude to me, it makes it hard for me to convince somebody else to meet you. I never said I wouldn't try to match him or anything.
No, he
and I
didn't say you
would.
said that.
But I did tell him that if he was being rude to me, it was going to be hard for me to tell somebody else he was a gentleman. So I said, please treat me nicely, and I'll certainly be able to do a better job of matching you. And that was the extent of it, and I never expected that to result in him thinking I wouldn't match him. I have 2 other matches for him right now.
I would
But
not
it's-
be here
if
today
somebody
if she
is-
did not say to me at that time, and let me make this real clear, if she did not say to me those words, I would be hard-pressed to match you up with anybody. And once, this isn't like a regular business transaction.
Just a second.
Yeah,
I believe that.
right.
I believe that. I believe that that's what got you. And that's what's going to get you out of this contract. I do believe, Ms. Gibbons, that you did say to him, if you can continue to use that kind of tone with me, I'm going to be hard-pressed to introduce you to anybody.
No, what I said was I would be hard-pressed to convince somebody that he was a gentleman.
Well, if you would be hard-pressed to convince someone that he was a gentleman, that he's not going to get his $1,500 worth.
But my daughter does the matchmaking, the actual contact and so forth. She's
Sit down.
here. And she's perfectly willing to work with him, and she's the one who usually does those connections anyway.
Miss Gibbons, how long have you been in business?
I've been doing this for over 25 years.
Okay. If you've been doing it for a long time, occasionally, I assume, you run across somebody that you know you're going to have difficulty with.
I pride myself on having worked those things through. And yes, I have run into that before, and I've usually worked it through with the person.
You're not going to work it through with Mr. McWaters. I think he's probably making a mistake. But it seems to me the only thing that you did thus far was give him a phone number to call, one person.
Actually, we don't just hand somebody a phone number. We call the lady, we tell her all about
I
the
understand that. He's not going to get all his money back. But it seems to be good practice that you say, listen, I don't want to deal with you. You're being rude to me on the phone. You'd be rude to other people. I don't want to introduce somebody who is rude. You don't want to fool any of your ladies, do you? No. And if you have interaction with a client who appears to be rude, strong-headed, not a gentleman, you wouldn't want to introduce him to some woman who has given you $1,500 to find her a gentlemanly person, right?
We actually offer counseling for that, but yes, essentially that's true.
Let me explain something to you, Miss Gibbons. He's 40. He's cooked. Finished. So, Mr. McWaters, shh, hey, Mr. McWaters, I think you're probably making a mistake. She doesn't seem like one of these fly-by-night operations. But I think that that one phrase, that you would be hard-pressed to tell any of her people that you were a gentleman, was a breach of your agreement.
Absolutely.
However, you did accept some service from her.
One phone call.
Well, one phone call, but that one phone call involved some work on her part. I mean, that is a service. She's in the service business, right? One other thing, Mr. McWaters. Sometimes people don't necessarily have to have a long-term marriage in order to be a suitable mate. You're 40.
Oh, I understand that. But,
So you have to
but
be
as
more
you get
flexible.
older, you tend to play the odds, if you will. And the odds tell you that you want to find somebody who's had the same experience as you in life. That way you're going to be closer to a connection, if you will.
You got to loosen up a little bit, sir.
Okay.
Open yourself up a little bit. You look like a lovely man. Be a little more flexible,
Thank you.
okay? I'm directing that the defendant return $1,300 to you of your initial $1,500 fee, so the judgment is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,300. That's all.
Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm a bit disappointed I didn't have a chance to make things work out with Mr. McWaters. I believe I could have.
Experiences are the best part of life, and jump out there and get your feet wet.
And now the next case.
All parties on McQueen versus Arsenault. Step forward, please.
44-year-old flight attendant Ashley McQueen is suing 34-year-old advertising executive Jennifer Arsenault for the cost of 2 airline tickets. Jennifer says Ashley's lawsuit is bogus.
All right, this case is a little convoluted, but let me see if I can piece together what I do understand. Miss McQueen, you met the defendant when you went for an interview about taking some photographs of you and a photo shoot. You got into a discussion with the defendant. According to you, after some discussion of her personal life, you agreed, since you work for the airlines and get some of these companion tickets, to give her these companion tickets. It is your claim that there was cost involved, direct cost to you, and you want her to be responsible for the direct cost, what you actually paid for those tickets. The defendant says that, as far as she's concerned, those vouchers were a gift to her. Okay, what were you doing at this interview?
Okay, I met with the defendant. We had the interview at this agency. During our interview, the defendant did get into her personal life. She cried. I told her at the time, when she asked if I had access to discounted tickets, I would let her know. So a couple days had passed. I then called and left a message. She had already gone to New York to pick up her son. She got the message, called me from New York, and said, yes, I could use the companion tickets to get my son and I back to Denver, and maybe we can do your composite, which is like a business card with your photos. So I FedExed the tickets to her. She returned to Denver using the tickets. I called. She said,
they would not credit my visa, the $350 that I had charged the day that I met with her, because I did charge for the photo shoot.
You did have a photo session.
I never had the photo session. I paid for a photo session.
But you never had it?
No.
Okay. Go ahead.
So when the defendant said, well, we cannot credit your visa, then I called back, spoke to her boss, and her boss said he was very...
Tell me what her boss said.
Okay.
Were you ultimately credited for this $350?
Yes, I was.
All right. So that's out. Let's get back to the tickets.
Okay. She, was fired. She called and said, I've been fired from my job. I will pay you for the tickets.
How much did it actually cost you? I assume you have the bill there.
I do, and I have, for the tickets themselves, were $141.60.
For all of them?
For all, yes, all.
It's a bargain.
4.
Okay. You want to explain to me why you're suing for $734.44?
I am suing her for the lowest fare that it would have cost her to actually buy a ticket, just from the aggravation of 8 months trying to find her.
You don't get that.
Okay.
That's an interesting theory. But I reject it. Your out-of-pocket expenses are $141.60.
Well, not completely out of pocket, because I had to FedEx the tickets to her.
How much did that cost?
That was $6.24.
Okay, what else?
Certified mail, $3.20.
Okay. $147.84. Go.
Okay, hello, Your Honor. First of all, when Ms. McQueen came into the office, I did interview her, and actually we had a nice chat. We got along good.
I'm not interested.
Okay, I don't blame you. I understand.
Could you put that
I didn't
down?
ask her for the tickets, and she had called the secretary and told her that she did have tickets available for me. My office did, in fact, reimburse her the complete $350 for the photo shoot. Which,
she didn't take a photo shoot.
Right, but we reimbursed her for that amount, which we don't normally reimburse
Who
anyone.
cares?
Okay. The misunderstanding was between composite cards and a photo shoot. I said I would pay for her composite cards, which are $250.
She didn't have a photo shoot. She didn't have composite cards.
But this is prior.
They gave her back her money.
We gave her back her
Before.
money. And I don't argue.
No, it didn't come out of your pocket. The company gave back the money.
Well, actually, the composite cards were going to come out of my pocket.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Okay. They gave her back her money because there was no photo shoot, which
we
would be used for the cards.
Right.
But
okay,
the
exactly. That's irrelevant.
I'm speaking. But the $350 you didn't pay, the company reimbursed her, decided that they didn't want any aggravation, they didn't want any grief. Here's your $350 back. You didn't take pictures. We didn't expend any time. Let's get to the airline tickets.
And I'm not in disagreement with that, with the $141.60. It was the $787 that I didn't feel I owed her, especially because of the fact that she harassed me, called my office several times. The entire situation was
did you ever say to her...
It was a misunderstanding.
Did you ever say to her, I'm prepared to give you the $141.60?
Yeah, as a matter of fact.
When did you say that to her?
Oh, gosh, shortly after, probably a couple months after.
Well, what'd you wait so long for?
I didn't even have a way to get a hold of her for a long time. I was back in New York for a while.
All right. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $147.84, which covers your overnighting the tickets. Thanks.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I really didn't think that I would get the $720 for what it would have cost her.
It was a misunderstanding.
But I thought, well, what the heck? I might as well try.
I thought that they were a gift, a favor.
You know, you never know.
I just didn't feel that I owed her $787.
I've been looking for this fugitive for 8 months.
She had called my office several times.
So now I can finally put my detective hat in the closet.
38-year-old plumber James Livingston is suing co-worker 33-year-old carpenter Douglas Joseph for shooting at him with a nail gun and body slamming him. Douglas says he was only playing.
So now you've shot this nail gun in his general direction, although not according to you at him, and words are exchanged. You're up on the second floor, correct?
That's correct.
He's on the first floor. Did he come up to the second floor where you were at?
No, ma'am. He...
No, the answer is no. Did you exit the second floor and come down to the first floor?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Because he was calling me down. He was calling me down with profanity and telling me he was going to kick my ass.
So that seems like a perfect time for me to stay where I am. Somebody is threatening you. Somebody, I mean, I see the way you look. I see, how old are you?
I'm 33 years old.
How old are you?
38.
Okay. How much do you weigh?
162 pounds.
How much do you weigh?
250 pounds.
So it seems to me you don't have much of a risk from him coming up to you and beating you with his plunger, right?
Right.
So you come down from the second floor because he was calling you names. And what happened when you came downstairs, Mr. Joseph?
We did stand toe-to-toe, and he was blurting out vulgar language at the whole time. And I said, "You're not worth going to jail for." I turned and walked away, turned my cheek and walked the other way. And he blurts out, I can't even say it on TV or use bleeping things, but I became angry at that point when I turned and I went to push him. And as I pushed him, I tripped and fell on this hardware that he was mumbling about. And he jumped on my back and started choking me. And so...
So you went to push him.
I went to push him,
and
but I fell.
No, you went to push him. That's not what you said. You said you went to push him, and as I did, I fell.
Right.
Then you're down on the ground, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
You're down, flat down on the ground.
I'm down on my knees and my hands.
And what happened?
He jumped my back and started choking my neck. I couldn't breathe.
Yes.
So then I feared for my life. I grabbed his sweatshirt, and I couldn't breathe, so I tried to erect myself, and I pushed us back into the wall. And at that point, I gained control. And I put him in head and arm and around his body, and that's it. No punches were done.
Well, he was injured, sir. He had a fractured rib.
Yeah. Dewey, the electrician, told me he was loading his four-wheeler and broke his rib doing that. He told me.
Don't tell. I'm not interested in what somebody else told you, sir. That's hearsay. That's hearsay. Now, he went to the hospital on the 11th. What's 16:45 hours?
That's 4:45 in the afternoon.
May I introduce Matt Taylor? He's my witness.
I saw the argument in the morning.
You saw it from the beginning, Mr. Taylor?
Yes, I did. I saw him.
Where was Mr. Joseph?
He was upstairs with me, second floor.
And did you see him with a gun similar to that in his hand?
Yes, I did.
Did you have any conversation with him, Mr. Taylor, prior to him pointing the gun downward and shooting off a round?
No.
He didn't say to you, look what I'm going to do, or I'm just fooling around?
No.
How many rounds did he fire off?
3.
When he fired off those rounds, did you see the plaintiff?
No, I didn't. He was behind the shear wall.
Did you ask Mr. Joseph what he was doing?
No.
Well, wouldn't that seem like a logical thing to ask?
I knew that I knew Mr. Livingston wasn't in any danger from
That's not what I asked you. You saw the defendant shooting off rounds of that gun in a way that was not meant to do any business that you were there to do, right?
Right.
Well, what did you think he was doing, sir?
I thought he was messing around.
Messing around with what?
A nail gun.
Messing around how? Just look at me, sir. Messing around how?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
Well, I didn't know what he was doing. He was shooting off the nail gun. I knew he was messing around with the plumber.
Okay, so you knew he was messing around with the plumber with the nail gun.
Yes. Yes, sir.
There we go. So after he shot off 3 rounds with the nail gun, what did you hear him say?
I heard him say, "Dance, pipe boy."
Now, you were on the second floor. Do you see how quietly you said that to me, "Dance, pipe boy"? I want you to use your voice, Mr. Taylor, and in a voice that replicates how Mr. Joseph communicated "Dance, pipe boy" to the plaintiff. I want you to tell me how that sounded from the second floor. Let's hear it, Mr. Taylor.
He said, "Dance, pipe boy."
You want me to put you up on the second floor and see if I could hear that? With all the other noise that's going on in a house that's being renovated? You want to try that one more time?
He said, "Dance, pipe boy."
That sounds more like it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You came downstairs and took off your belt to fight.
Negative.
Oh, yes. You started it. And whatever happened after that, you deserved it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. James Livingston says co-worker Douglas Joseph body slammed him. Douglas says he was only playing.
And when he said "Dance, pipe boy," See how you laughed and you smiled when you said that to me? Did you smile?
No, I didn't.
You didn't smile. Did you laugh?
No.
Was he laughing?
No.
Wasn't?
No.
And then what did you see, sir?
I saw Mr. Livingston come out from around the corner, and for a while he was taunting Doug, you know, lots
Cursing
of verbal
at him.
abuse, cursing at him.
Cursing at him.
And then I saw Doug he went downstairs.
Did he go downstairs by ladder?
Yes.
And did he put down the gun before he started to descend the ladder?
Yes.
And what about his tool belt?
He took that off. He took that off when he got down there.
Did he take that off as soon as he got down from the ladder?
No.
So he was wearing it.
Yes.
And when did he take off his tool belt?
The second time he went down, when...
Second time?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about the first time he went down.
The first time he went down was after Mr. Livingston started calling him a bunch of names. He went down, he said that it wasn't worth it, came back up, and then Mr. Livingston started yelling at him some more, and he went back down, and then he took off his tool belt.
May I respond in defense to myself? He was saying that I knew you weren't going to do anything about it. Like, he wanted to fight, and I didn't want to fight. I tried to walk away from it the whole time.
You could have?
I could have.
Oh, you could have, Mr. Joseph. All you had to do was not come downstairs the second time and take off your belt.
How much verbal abuse can someone take?
Do you hear that?
Yeah, I just...
Do you hear that?
When it goes on for months, they've had 5 complaints about him with other trades and everything, about how vulgar his language is and how...
That's why, Mr. Joseph, I don't believe you when you say to me that you shot the gun at him in an attempt to change his mood from foul to fair. I don't believe you. What I think you wanted to do was just give him a good one. And you not only shot this gun at him, which could place him at risk because, let's say, it happened that one of those nails hit another nail, hit a pipe, ricocheted, caused some damage. You would have been very sorry that that happened. You would have said it was an accident. I didn't mean to hurt him. But bottom line was, you started it. And whatever happened after that, whatever foul language he was using, whatever names he was calling you or your mother, whatever he was doing, you deserved it. So you didn't come down once, so you didn't tell me that. You actually went upstairs without taking off your belt. According to this gentleman, you came downstairs and took off your belt to fight.
Negative.
Oh, yes, you did. You took off your belt in order to fight, because otherwise there is absolutely no reason for you to take off your belt. You didn't do it the first time.
I believe I did do it the first time, actually.
Not according to your witness. According to your witness, he said you went up the first time, right? With the belt. Came back upstairs with the belt. Didn't take the belt off until he came down a second time, right?
Right.
You've been most helpful. Sit down. So, Mr. Joseph, sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. I'm sure that that's something that you heard at your mother's knee at some time during your life, and it's too bad that you didn't follow through. You started this incident on this job site. You started it. You started it by behaving irresponsibly with a very serious piece of equipment. And I'm not saying that Mr. Livingston, by responding and calling you names and cursing at you, was a gentleman. But boy, if somebody did that to me, let's just say this. Are you married?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have children?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are your children?
They're 10, 11, 12, 13.
Let's say a 15-year-old boy doesn't like your 10-year-old and has one of those dart guns and takes out one of those dart guns and starts shooting it in your son's direction.
May I defend your leading?
No, I want to ask you that question.
Actually, an incident happened to my son just the other day where he was beat up by 3 of the neighbor boys, and I walked over to the neighbor after just relaxing about it and talking to her, and said, I know that boys will do things, and he had a hurt rib and a bloody nose.
And you went over and said, I know that boys will do things.
Yeah.
Really?
They beat him up, and he was in tears, and everyone... You know, and I responded like, you know, I was in fear of my son, but an hour later I realized that he might have done something to begin with to do something, and then they might have taunted him or something like that, you know.
Really?
And I think they were both
You are such a good person. Somebody did that to one of my kids, boy. even joking around. I wouldn't like that, would you?
Not at all.
Not at all. Not at all.
I admit that I was angry at first, but I waited an hour and a half.
Well, you calmed down.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what you should have done.
Yes, ma'am.
So you got to pay for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
We tried to get him prosecuted, and they wouldn't prosecute him, and he was in such pain. We went through so much.
I publicly stuck out my hand to apologize to James, and he was very abusive and verbal and just really irate at that time.
It wasn't 3, it was a whole rack of nails.
Whole rack.
And they can be discharged anywhere from 60 to 120 pounds, and they can shoot out in 6 seconds.
He comes to work and pops off constantly with people, you know, and it's a danger to him. You know, he got me going.
24-year-old student Jennifer Lee is suing ex-boyfriend, 31-year-old student Stephen Collins, for $1,500 in unpaid loans. Stephen says they were all gifts. Ex-boyfriend Stephen Collins owes her $1,500 in loans.
So how do you earn a living, Mr. Collins?
I was working custodian at the University of Utah while going to school, Your Honor.
How much do you earn?
$7 an hour, Your Honor.
What did you need the $200 for that you took from her?
I don't recall her giving me $200, Your Honor.
You don't?
No.
I'm sure you did. But I'm satisfied with the $400. I'm not satisfied that he owes you any money for clothes. That comes under the category of think better next time. And I see also you've got here some dinners and some other stuff. He said, you pay for it, I'll pay you back. Famous last words. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $400. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She lied repeatedly about me telling her I would pay her back any money.
I didn't want anybody to know that they could just use me and abuse me and get away with it, and that's basically what he did.
And now the next case.
All parties on Miranda versus Beliso. Step forward, please.
60-year-old taxicab driver Margot Miranda is suing her son, 38-year-old computer-aided drafter Anthony Beliso, for the balance on a computer and an unpaid credit card bill.
Miss Miranda, the defendant is your son?
Yes, Your Honor.
It's your claim that he owes you a whole bunch of money for credit card bills and other sundry things. How old are you, sir?
I'm 38, Your Honor.
Can you tell me first why you would bring your son to court?
Well, I'm not happy to do this, Your Honor. Our relationship turned sour, and he stopped paying.
You got him a duplicate card on your account?
On the American Express, I did. On the Comp USA, I opened an account on the day that he and I both bought a computer.
You bought a computer, he bought a computer.
Yeah, on
is
the
that right,
same
sir?
day.
So
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
Okay. How much was your computer?
It was approximately $2,600.
And have you been diligent in making payments on that?
The agreement was that after that she paid off her computer that I would start paying payments on mine.
Is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Did you pay yours off?
I did, and plus $1,000 interest.
Okay. When did you pay yours off?
October '98.
Did you start to make the
I
payments?
started making payments, Your Honor.
And what happened?
I've continually made payments until the day she asked me to move out of her house.
Okay. When was that?
It was back in February.
How much do you still owe on the computer?
I don't believe that I owe anything on the computer, Your
Why
Honor.
not?
When she left to go visit my grandmother in Seattle, she demanded money from me, which I paid her at $275 a week, and that covered the computer.
And how many of those payments did you make?
I made payments to approximately $2,600, Your Honor.
Show me. Who are you?
I'm Roger Mayoser. I'm a witness for the plaintiff.
Step up.
Your Honor, when my friend Margot went to Seattle, she asked me to collect the money from Tony.
Money for the computer?
Not just for the computer, but for room and board as well. Well, I didn't know the full extent of all of his bills. All I understood was that there was a computer, and she mentioned something more, but I didn't know what it was, and she had to leave right away.
How long was she away?
Approximately 6 weeks.
Do you have any proof of payments for me? Say, let's start with the 6-week periods.
Yes, I have some canceled checks, Your Honor.
Can I see them, please? No, I'm not going to look through all those checks, sir.
These are the dates that I wrote down, and then here are the...
Okay, let me take a look and see what he's got. Let me take a look at those, please.
They're in here? Yes.
I know you have a list here, signed blank checks to Marco. In what amount? Were they ever cashed? Were they ever not cashed?
When I was in Seattle, there was a problem with one of the payments was late. She was very upset. So to alleviate the problem of it ever happening again, I gave her a stack of signed checks to which she would tell me what the bill was, and then she would write them and then send them off.
Well, did you ever get the checks returned?
The bank kept the checks, and they've been destroyed. They don't keep the records of them.
How am I supposed to determine, even if I believed you, in what amount these checks are?
I have no way of proving that.
Let me see how much is left on the Comp card and on the American Express card, please. You did receive a certain amount of money, minimally for 6 weeks, from your son towards the computer. Is that correct?
No, that was the American Express, his share of what he charged on the American Express. The computer he was making payments on from Seattle.
I'm not looking through all of these things. Would you please tell me, does he owe any money left on the computer?
Yes, he does, Your Honor.
Have you gotten any letter from the credit card company that he still owes money on the computer?
He made payments every month on the computer, but he made the minimum amount due, which is around $60 a month.
So what?
So I paid my computer off in a year. I expected him at least to, when I sent the bill to him, I advised him to make as much of a payment as he could each month.
All right, Ms. Miranda, but that was not your agreement. Let me explain something to you. You have to have an agreement with him to do that. Your agreement with your son was, when I finish paying off mine, you'll start paying off yours. And according to you, he has, in fact, made at least his minimum payments on the computer. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Right up until the time he decided he didn't owe anymore and that he stopped paying.
When was that?
February 2000.
Is that right?
Your Honor, I was living with Margot. She put me out the house. When she put me out the house, I did not have first, I did not have last. I'm living in a hotel room, trying to make it through and trying to come up right now. I would have been happy to continue paying Margot the money that I promised her, but she was so mean towards me that I thought my best bet would be to stay as far away from her as I could.
What does that have to do with this debt that you owed her, sir?
What it has to do with it is I cannot communicate with her.
Well, you don't have to communicate with her. Communicate with me. You have an agreement. You can't just stop paying when you move out.
I did not just stop paying when I moved out, Your Honor.
So how much do you owe on the computer?
I feel that I owe nothing.
How much does the company feel that you owe on the computer?
You'll have to ask Margot.
How
she
much
gets
does the
bill.
company feel that he owes on the computer?
$2,600.
Let me see.
Where do we put it?
Can I say something, Your Honor?
Sure.
I never asked for this computer. She offered it to me. She said she felt that I deserved
please,
this
you had an agreement. You acknowledged to me that you had an agreement with her that you would pay your computer as soon as she finished paying off hers. Don't backtrack. What?
We think the folder with the highlighted stuff is in the bag in the
Well,
back.
get it, because I have to see exactly what... Here, just a second. This Comp USA, 26/18/98.
That's his.
All right. Now, what about the American Express bill, sir?
The deal was when I got it that my charges for the month should be paid by the end of the month. And I've had that card for, what, 3-4 years? And for all that time, I've always made my payments on time.
Is that right?
No, Your Honor. His share of the sign and travel account, which is a monthly payment, you can pay as much as you can on the sign and travel. And Tony seems to have forgotten the times where amount due this month is $515 or it's $912.
Why didn't you just cancel the card? Miss Miranda, there is absolutely no way.
He was making some of the payments, but
you are his mother. If it was becoming too complicated with your son to handle his credit, then what you do is you say, go get your own credit card, you pay off this balance, but you don't let him continue to charge on your credit, which I see he continued to do.
Well, I trusted him, Your Honor.
No court is going to help you with that, Miss Miranda. You're his mother. You're supposed to be smart, first. Second, if it's getting out of hand, you're supposed to stop it immediately. Immediately. You don't come to court with a child and then say to a court, listen, you fix it. This is my adult child. I let him get bills up to the eyeballs. You give me an order against him, and then I will pay off the credit card company. It doesn't work that way, Miss Miranda. It doesn't work that way. Don't be foolish. What?
After Tony moved back in and was asked to leave, he continued to make charges on the credit card.
He doesn't have to continue to make charges. All she has to do is, she's the primary. She calls up the credit card company and she says, close the account.
Ma'am, may I?
Yeah.
We did call the credit card company, and the credit card company couldn't just close the account. They had to put a stolen report on it to get the credit card back.
Just a second. That's not true. You write a letter to the credit card company and you say, I am withdrawing my authorization on this credit card number, or I'm closing the whole account. Mine, too. You think the people who have children who want to stop the credit cards call and report that their children stole their credit cards? It's ridiculous. You do owe her for the computer, however, because you promised to pay it. I suggest, sir, you keep making the minimum payments on what you owe her for this American Express bill. You do owe her for the computer.
Excuse me, Your Honor. The computer is no longer in my possession.
Where is it?
She has it.
Did you take it back?
I did, Your Honor.
So that's
when
why
did you take it back?
You know?
After he moved. And he
Goodbye. Listen, courts are not here to take over everybody's family problems, Miss Miranda. You have a problem with your son, you have to deal with it. You have a problem with your son, you have to deal with it. I was perfectly prepared to make an order with regard to the computer. You took it back? Why are you here?
Parties are excused. You may step out.
If she would have not reported my credit card stolen when I was trying to go and get lunch after work, I might have had something to eat that day.
I only met my son 10 years ago. He was raised in foster care.
She's trying to get a scapegoat. I don't want to be that scapegoat.
I feel betrayed by my son.
এটা দিয়া আজকে আমরা বিরাট বড় একটা তিমি মাছ ধরবো পুকুর থেকে। বন্ধুরা দেখো কত সুন্দর মাছ। এই যে দিলাম, এখন টোপটা দিলাম। ওই ক্যামেরাম্যান পড়ে যাচ্ছে, জলদি খুব তাড়াতাড়ি আমাদের বড়শি নিয়ে গেছে। ক্যামেরাম্যান জলদি ফোকাস করো। আমরা কি মাছ ধরবো?
তিমি মাছ।
ইলিশ মাছ, ইলিশ মাছ। আমরা আজকে পুকুর থেকে ইলিশ মাছ ধরবো। कमल तोलाय जाइयो मोरे लइया देखी उड़े गেল বন্ধুরা দেখো কত বড় একটা কচুরি পানা
ये क्या हुआ?
বুঝছ না?
तो